of paths, but the two basic main paths, they are called the path for, okay, there is the path which is like the very limited path. It's a path to have a good rebirth. You don't want to get free of disciple, you just simply want to have a good rebirth. So they says that for that, all you have to do is being a moral person. If you're a good enough person, you can basically get to the level where you have enough good karma to have a very fair chance to have a good next life. But this is very limited because, again, next life you might not find a teaching which will take you beyond that, and you can fall in the life afterward to hell or something. And so the other path is a path that saves you from suffering. Bring you to the level of wisdom and understanding where you are when you are free from all that can create the causes for negative rebirth. And eventually can take you to where your mind is so pure, you can only create seeds of happiness. And this level it's called Arhat, usually. Arhat is the one who conquered all his enemies. And the enemies here are not like, I don't know, they're not the Nazis. Enemies here are defilements, are ignorance. All that make us do wrong actions which lead to suffering, which is greed, anger, delusion, all of these things basically take us down into lower existence. So a person who got totally purified of all his defilements, he is an Arhat, and he has amazing peace, and he will never incarnate again because his mind doesn't generate any more causes for reincarnation, and he kind of stay in constant bliss even after his death. There are all kind of theories what kind of an Arhat after his death he will not be reborn anymore, and he is basically merged into the infinite in a way. So this is one path. But this path was considered by other types of Buddhists to be limited, because even if you saved yourself in a way from suffering, and so many people, other beings are in this cyclic existence. And they said because we were all incarnated many, many times, many of these beings might be your fathers and mother and friends in past life. And you might own them a lot, and they are locked into this suffering existence. So it is very selfish simply to save yourself. So they want to become a Buddha, which means it's not just somebody who conquered his own defilement, but somebody who developed so much compassion and powers and abilities to help that he can basically save many beings from suffering, teach many beings the path for happiness. And then it's another path. It's basically a path that has much to do with compassion. And Tantra, by the way, is part of the Mahayana, of the path that want to save all beings. It was designed to people who were having enough compassion to strive to help other beings. And basically, if you are very compassionate, you understand that only if you become enlightened very quickly, and even in this life, you could really help other beings. It means your capacity to help somebody spiritually, if you are just a simple person, is very different than your capacity if you are a totally awakened being who has unlimited awareness and intelligence and capacity to see really what the other person needs in order to get away from. So you want to make yourself awake, realize, enlightened as soon as possible, because then you can help other beings more. And so Tantra is basically aimed to give such people, they're called usually bodhisattvas in Buddhism, people who develop compassion, and all this drive is to reach enlightenment for the sake of all beings and help all beings. And then you want to get there fast if you really love humanity and all beings basically. So Tantra is considered to be the fast path that can allow you to reach becoming a Buddha in one life. And because our time is very degenerate, which means we live in a very spiritually unsupported times. They say that even tantra are not enough, which means there is low tantras and there is high tantra. You need to use the high tantras. And this is kind of the Buddhist idea of it. If you take it from Kabbalah view or a thing like this, so they don't really talk in this way. They just basically talk about heaven. Most references, just to get to heaven, to be like the saints living get to heaven. But they still have a lot of small distinctions. Like there is Gan Eden, which is the Garden of Eden, but you have also Ha'olam Haba, which means the next world, the other world. And the other world is much higher than Gan Eden. It's not the same. And a famous poet, Hasidic poet from the Alter Rebbe, from the Rabbi who formed one of the biggest Hasidic movements, he said, I don't want your heaven, and I don't want your other world, one above heaven. Only you I want. And when he said only you I want, it means he wants infinity. God was representing Or and Sof, the light of infinity. Nothing was enough. It was not enough to be in heaven for me. Not enough to be in the world above heaven. Just infinity. And this is where the Buddhists want to go in this respect. And if you go to other religions like talk about Shaivism, Hinduism, you also talk in very similar way when you go to the high philosophy and high level of understanding. They say the same things. It's not enough just to be a good person. You want to reach what we call samadhi, or nirvikalpa samadhi, which is a state where all your samkhara, all your subtle karmic imprints become detached. They cease to function, and then you can kind of get out of this cyclic existence. So, this is the basic idea about reincarnation and karma.
So after you die, you go straight to another world in the Buddhist?
There are a few ways to see it. Basically, yes. I mean, once you die, your consciousness continues, and you become power. It makes you reincarnate in other bodies, and then you have different philosophies also in Buddhism. There are 6 ways to see emptiness. So one way to see emptiness is it's like the Abhidhamma way it's called. So there, yes, you die, and then you don't immediately get reincarnated. All the elements, they are kind of falling from, they kind of get, because you are composed from many elements, for earth, water, fire, air, ether, it's called, time and space and all of this. So they say that all the elements kind of crumble one into the other, like we feel like we are getting crushed, we feel like heat and then cold, and we feel how the element start to decompose. And then we get into something which is called bardo, which is like gates, if you want, like temporary existence, which lasts about 49 days, in which all our karma is being viewed. All our life, it's kind of see a movie of all our life in a way, till a very strong karma that we did in the past kind of become very strong and dominant, and it forces us to get rebirth in one of the stable worlds, which means if we stay alive and we get to the point when we see the time when we were, I don't know, being very bad to somebody, even this one event could take us into a hellish existence. Or if what we see and it was very dominant was when we did something very good, we can get into a heavenly world. And it's very similar to falling asleep. I mean, what dream are we going to dream? What will be our next dream when we fall asleep? So there is a time when we fall into a blank sleep in a way, and then something causes to fall into a certain dream. So this type of people, they are very obsessed about the where we die, for example. They think that the last thought that we have before we die is very important. It's like the difference between going to sleep just after seeing this. We could have a very good day, and we did a lot of good things, but just before we go to sleep, we see a horror film. And and we fall asleep with the images of the horror films in our mind. And we can watch this horror film just for 20 minutes, but the chances that we'll have a horror dream is very high, even though we did a lot of good things during the whole day. Because the last moments, just before we fell asleep, were horror imprints. So it makes it very easy for us to fall into a horror existence. And the opposite, we can have a very bad day, we can do a lot of bad things, but just before we go to sleep, we did something really good. We talk with our grandmother and we say we love her. So the chances we have a good dream, if we just did that before we fell asleep, is very high. So it makes these people very obsessed about how we die, to die in a good way. And they have even special practices to get us enlightened and that kind of death, called Torah, for example. How to take our consciousness at the moment of death to ejaculate it through the right opening. They say that it's also important in which area of the body we are focused before we die. And it depends, it's connected to chakras and stuff and level of consciousness and how they connect. They say that if our soul is going through low opening, through the anus, we're going to a very bad place. It's kind of being ejaculated to a very bad world. But if our consciousness ejaculates through the crown of the head, it means we're going to a very good thing. Actually, we get enlightened at that moment of death. And even the Pope, for example, in the Christian church, when he dies, they have special hammers that break his skull on the top, so kind of his awareness will go through the top of the head. So it's not only in the Eastern religions, but so they have very special practices to ejaculate the consciousness through the top of the head, and other practices to do before death. And they have a lot of regulations, like before when somebody dies, you don't allow to touch him in the lower body, just on the top of the head and stuff. And you have to tell him just when he's about to die, to remind him all the good stuff that he did, and to create a very spiritual atmosphere, not to cry next to a dying person, not to be attached to him, and stuff like this. Oh, Father, don't die. This is not a very good thing to do, because it will make him very attached to staying alive. And when he dies, he can become a ghost because of this. So, to let go of somebody who died and to help you basically have a very spiritual death. It's very important. And then after somebody dies, when he's in the bardo, these people, they say that you can still help him. He's still connected to this world, and he has unlimited. We don't see much because we have eyes. When you don't have eyes as a soul, you don't have body, you can see much more, hear much more, feel much more. It's happened to people who have, for example, clinical death. They describe every detail of what happened in the operation room. And they can hear things that happen in other rooms. And they can, like, when you have out-of-body experience from meditation or clinical death, you understand that your senses limited your vision, not help your vision. So when you are out of your body, you can see much more. And those souls, they still didn't incarnate into the next life. You have kind of average 49 days to affect them, so they ride them. There is a whole treatise about that called the Bardo Todol. It's very famous in Tibetan Buddhism. But some other views, they say that basically, how can I explain it in the most clear way? It's called the Madhyamika school of Buddhism, and they say that what causes us feel that we are human is that now we have a ripening of a human karma, which means we have a seed that are ripening now to see ourselves as human. What makes a dog think he's dog is that he has now a ripening of dog karma, if we want to say it in this way. So when the human karma ends, immediately we can see nothing change. It's simply the human karma ends and appear a dog karma or a god karma, whatever karma appear. So it doesn't have to go through all this dissolution of the elements and then evocation of the elements. And then it doesn't have to be like that. And the Bardo states it can be a very swift change. Simply now I have human karmas which manifest, and then now we have a hell karma or heaven karma. Because it's all